Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, Coach Landon, back with another episode of Beyond Tomorrow Recruiting. Today, we're going to talk to Eric Benedick, the assistant coach on the women's side of basketball at Eastern Wyoming College. So, we're going to jump into some questions with Coach right after we run this intro. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, Coach Landon, back with another episode of Beyond Tomorrow Recruiting. Today, we have Coach Eric Benedick from Eastern Wyoming College. We're going to talk basketball. We're going to talk recruiting. We're going to talk about a bunch of things. But first, Coach, I'm going to go ahead and let you drop an intro. Let them know who you are, where you're at, and how you got there.
Appreciate it, L. Like you said, I'm Coach Eric Benedick. I'm the assistant coach here at Eastern Wyoming College. It's in NJCAA Region 9. It's my first year here. The prior 3 years, I served as both the head coach and 1 year as the athletic director at Colorado Northwestern Community College in Region 18. Prior to that, coached on the circuit, the Adidas circuit with the New Mexico Clippers. I had a brief professional playing career, spanned about 5 years. It's kind of just touching on my brief hoop history and kind of how I ended up here.
There you go. Good, man. It's always good to have coaches, but it's better to have coaches who have progressed that playing career because you guys speak to it at a different level than a guy who just coaches. So I love whenever we get guys that have that playing experience or coaches that have that playing experience past college. So we're glad to have you here, man. We're going to just jump right into the questions. We're going to talk obviously recruiting. That's kind of what this whole Beyond Tomorrow recruiting segment is about, is giving coaches a platform to share some of their knowledge, experiences, and things like that with student athletes, parents of student athletes, and just people who are more curious about the thought process from the coach's perspective. So we're going to jump into recruiting. Now, obviously, Eastern, Central Wyoming, Western Wyoming, Colorado Northwestern, you're familiar with the smaller schools, especially at the JUCO level. Even though you guys are D1, it's still, you're competing recruiting wise, like we were talking before, against the CSIs and the Salt Lake Community Colleges and those programs that are not only bigger in stature, but also in bigger cities. So when you're recruiting and it comes to getting a player interested in coming to a smaller area, what do you figure is the bigger pitch? Do you sell the program? Do you sell, different factors or the player's roles? But what is kind of your pitch when it comes to recruiting a player to a more rural, smaller area?
So you're kind of always going to make sure that basketball and who you are, who I am as a coach, is at the forefront. A player, they're going to have what they want in a college program, what they want in a college coach, what they want in a basketball situation. So everybody's going to be different kind of in what they're valuing in their recruiting process. For me as a coach, it's this is what I'm about. This is who I am. This is my vibe. This is my personality. This is the style of basketball, the brand of basketball, the approach that I'm going to take to help you. And it's ultimately seeing, do you vibe with that first and foremost, right? If you're not feeling me, you're not feeling that approach to basketball, no matter how big or small the city is, it's not going to be a good fit.
Sure.
If the player is really valuing the basketball side of that and the connection and the personality with the coach, everything else is kind of a part of that, right? And it might not be ideal for the player, but they're going to be more inclined to have and go through that process of maybe being somewhere small, knowing that their ultimate goal is being achieved.
Mm-hmm.
I never look at it as you're trying to convince a player to come somewhere small or you're trying to sell that, because if that's something they're not interested in doing, they're not willing to do, then you're not the place for them. And you're brutally honest about where you're at. You're in a town of 6,000 people. Like, you don't have Chick-fil-A and Chipotle. If
Mm-hmm.
that matters to you, don't come here because you won't be happy here and everything else is going to go to the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
But if basketball is what matters to you, your academics are what matter to you, a coach that's going to care about you, push you, get you to the next level, and that knows the game is what matters. Okay, these are some small sacrifices along the way. And you paint the good, you paint the bad, but you're always honest about it. I think if any coach is trying to sell you on a place or not honest about that place, I would have some reservations on that.
Yeah. I think not being transparent, like you're saying, is part of the issue that the transfer portal is so active now. Kids get brought into a situation and don't really see the big picture and understand the vision, the purpose, the big picture, and then they get in there and they're like, wait, where's the Chick-fil-A? Where's the Chipotle? It's not here. Okay, I got to transfer. So, but I'm glad you said that because that's that's very very important, very significant. Um, as a JUCO guy, as a former JUCO guy, I think what you said about you know I personally feel like as a former JUCO guy, JUCO tested my love and my passion for the game. I was at Colorado Northwestern. I was at a small school, left there and transferred to a slightly bigger city, but it was still another small school. But it really locked me in on why I was there and what the goal was after that. And so I think for me, it was a little bit easier to have less distractions where I wasn't so caught up in the social life and the going out. And I mean, I had to drive 45 minutes to get to Grand Junction, 30 minutes to get to Vernal. So the social life wasn't big for me. We were just in the gym. We were just getting shots up, playing pickup games, working out, lifting. So I definitely like what you said about that for sure. As a coach that's been a head coach at the JUCO level, you're in another JUCO program now. Kind of talk about, from your opinion, the benefits of JUCO versus the traditional 4 years, D1s, D2s, and AIs, D3s, from like a competitiveness, a development, the ability to play after high school and still get the exposure and be seen by potential 4-year schools. I know we talked about jamborees, things like that. So kind of speak to some of those things, like the benefits of JUCO from your perspective.
I think anybody's hoop dream ever takes them to a junior college. Like, I don't think anybody envisions themselves as a young kid, I'm gonna play at a junior college. So knowing and understanding, like, no, this is not your ideal situation for anybody. Um, but here's what it can do for you. For many kids, right? D1, D2, that's the dream, that's the goal. Or this location, this specific university. It might not be a reality at that time when you're coming out of high school. JUCO still allows for it to possibly be a reality. JUCO can offer you an ability to have other options that you would not otherwise have, that aren't currently available to you. And that doesn't always mean they're going to be at a better level or a better spot, but they can be different. You see it all the time. Players come out of high school, maybe they only had this junior college offer and a few other 4-year offers that weren't that beneficial to them. But after 1, 2 years, they have a more of a plethora to choose from, or they have elevated their level and they have opened more doors. It's a way for you to continue to find different avenues within the game that otherwise aren't present for you. I think any kid, if you have the right 4-year offer coming out and it's the ideal situation, it's the ideal fit, you'll take it. There's a reason you're going to a junior college, and it's not the stereotypical you're a bad kid, bad academics. Sometimes it's just that. That is my best opportunity. That is the best spot for me. That is the best financial opportunity for me. But it can allow so many other things to grow and foster and flourish. Kind of like you touched on, it will test your love for the game because you are somewhere that you don't really necessarily probably want to be. You're somewhere where there's not a lot of glamour and glitz and glory to being a JUCO player, but it's going to show, are you really about this? And most of the time, you're going to be surrounded by a lot of other individuals that are of the same mindset. That's where the competitiveness comes out. That's where the drive comes out. That's where everything that will test and challenge you comes out. And it does prepare you for that 4 year level in a way that otherwise can't. There's a lot of good that will come from it. You can find bad in it too. It's how you're going to choose to look at it and what you're going to choose to get out of it. If you're valuing all the things about the looks, the appearance, the day to day life, you're going to find a lot of bad about junior college. If you're valuing the fact that I get to hoop, I'm probably on a pretty decent scholarship situation, if not a great scholarship situation. I'm surrounded by like minded individuals that are here for the same reason, and I'm going to get to play very good competition. It can benefit you in a big way.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you're doing it for the cloud, if you're trying to chase a status, JUCO is not where you want to be because it'll crush that dream in the first week when you're walking through your town and people don't know who you are and you thought you were going to be big man, big woman on campus. And so, yeah, if you're in it for the cloud or the status, JUCO is going to really check that at the door early. So I like it. So we're going to switch levels here for just a second. I want to dive a little bit deeper into your mentality when you're recruiting a player. So you get an opportunity to go watch a player and she's at a nearby school. She's at a school close enough for you to take a 3 or 4 hour drive or a quick travel into a neighboring city, a neighboring town, connecting state, and you go watch her play. As you're watching this game, or even maybe even if you're not live at the game, maybe we get a huddle video and we get to watch a full game start to finish. Um, I'm not a huge highlights fan. I'm a fan of, I want to see your body language. You make a mistake. I want to see you when you come out the game, are you slapping hands when your teammates hit threes? Are you booming on the 3 point line or booming on the bench or something? So I'm personally, I'm a bigger fan of the whole game because I want to see those good and not good moments versus just showing me highlights. But when you're watching, you're recruiting a player, you get to watch her whole game. Kind of touch on a couple of things from your perspective that you would consider a red flag, like, ooh, that's a concern on bringing that player in. And adversely, some of the green flags. Tell some of the players things that, from your perspective as a coach, you would love to see kids doing within the flow of a game if you're recruiting or if you're interested in that player.
We're talking about watching a game and the basketball side of things. You have a lot of these phrases or terms that are used a lot by coaches, right? Motor, high energy, dog. All these things ultimately are coming down to, are you competing, and are you competing for the duration of a game? Does this game matter to you? Regardless of it, if it's against a rival school, a high rated opponent, or if it's against the worst team in your district, conference, whatever it is, are you competing? Are you showing that this game means something to you? Playing hard, basically. It is a skill to compete. It's a skill to know how to affect and dominate a game, quote unquote. A lot of people think scoring, that's the only way I can impact a game in a real big, meaningful way. That's kind of what everybody puts the most value on. But can you affect the game in multiple areas? And they don't have to be necessarily with eye popping statistics, because at the high school level, and I hate to say it like this, you can see some players that average 20 points a game that suck. Like they're garbage. Like they're just not very good. The stats say they're great, their accolades say they're great, but you can see right away they're not that talented. They're not that good. The game doesn't maybe even mean something that much to them. So less about are they putting out a big statistical output, more about how are they playing? How does their footwork look? How fine tuned are the subtleties of their game? When you talk about the communication side of things, are they communicating with their teammates? Are they holding a presence on the court? Are they showing that they're engaged, not just physically, but mentally? Because it's a skill to talk and communicate with your teammates, talk on defense, talk on offense, talk in the huddle. These are all things that will separate you. Now, yes, at the end of the day, your overall talent is ultimately what's going to get you the scholarship or get you to the next level. But there's, like you've seen, there's a lot of players. Every team at the high school level has somebody that can score, somebody that can play. What are these separating factors? That's the best way I can put it.
No, I like that because you literally answer both of those with the same answers. It's like that competitiveness. Are you competing from the beginning of the game to the end? If you are, definitely a green flag, whether it's rivalry game, worst team in the region or conference. And if you're not, red flag. So I like that your answers were right down the middle, but it could kind of go one way or the other. So yeah, I like that. And I tell my players all the time, I've been running my AAU stuff. This will be the 8th year. And I tell my kids all the time, talking is the one thing that you have to do in basketball that requires the least amount of talent. I said, you don't have to go to the gym and work on talking. You don't have to get a private trainer or get in a group chat with all your buddies and say, hey, who wants to go to the gym and work on talking? Like it's one of the few skills that it's a conscious decision, right? I tell kids all the time, conscious decisions are the secret to basketball. You wake up and you decide, am I going to put my shoes on or my socks on first? You decide, am I going to brush my teeth or am I not going to brush my teeth? Conscious decisions. You make a conscious decision to call that screen before it hits or let it floor your teammate and then go over and apologize because you didn't talk. And if you're not going to talk throughout the course of the game, you're probably not dialed in enough to talk and make that switch when the game's on the line. And then they hit the game winner, you guys lose by one. And coach says, how did he or she get open? Well, I got screened, coach. I didn't know it was coming. And then you look at your teammates like, so I definitely think that's one of the most important parts of basketball that probably gets the least amount of acknowledgement for the effect and the impact that it can have. So I'm glad that you touched on that because I harp on my guys and my girls and the kids that I train and anybody I get a chance to be in the gym with. I always talk about the importance of being verbal and communicating and the effect that it has mentally and locking you into the game. So I'm glad you touched on that. So now this is what we call the fourth quarter. I I call it the fourth quarter because I'm in a high school coach mind, but had I thought about it from a college standpoint or knew I'd have so many women's college basketball coaches, I would have called it the second half or changed the words. But in the fourth quarter, this is really just open mic time. This is your time to drop some knowledge on the student athletes watching, the parents of the athletes, and just kind of give them some more insight from a coach's perspective on things that could help potentially with their recruiting process. So I'll open it up to you, man, and I'll let you have it.
Um, Things that can help you in your recruiting process, having an understanding and knowing of how not all institutions are going to be created equal in their finances and resources. You can have schools that are in the same region or conference competing at the exact same level, and one or two can be very vastly different in what their ability to offer you from a financial package is than another school. Um, a big thing I see a lot of players and coaches approach it with is that if it's not a full ride, I'm not interested. Or if my school is not being funded entirely, I don't want to talk to you. And that's fine. That's your decision. But I would caution that it's very rare to find a complete full athletic scholarship. Even in situations where you are being quote unquote fully funded, it's usually academics or school type based aid and scholarships are being applied. Having your FAFSA completed is also a big key to this because that will factor to your package. Um, so knowing and understanding that not all schools are equal. What one JUCO or one Division II NAIA could offer you could be vastly different than what another institution could offer you. And there's levels to it, right? There are some junior colleges that have better financial situations than four-year schools and vice versa. So really taking that into account and knowing that if a coach is putting money on the table for you, they see a lot of value for you. And usually, the earlier they're willing to put money on the table for you, the more meaningful of a recruit you are to them versus if they're putting money on the table for you later. Um, the next part would just always be probably something you've told your players is coaches always move around too. Coaches network and talk a lot too. The basketball world gets smaller the further you rise up in it. Somebody's gonna know somebody. Somebody's gonna have a connection to somebody that they can get more intel or information on you, and vice versa. And especially when you're dealing with a region or a conference, there's a good chance that these coaches are all recruiting similar players, similar teams. You rub one coach the wrong way, it could negatively affect you in recruitment with another situation. Not saying it will, but it could. Coaches always like to move up and change too. Prime example, I'm at one institution for the last 3 years. Now I'm at a new institution. To give an example of that, the institution I'm at now, a better financial situation, a better scholarship situation. Players that I'm interested in recruiting there that maybe had no interest in me because of that and scoffed at it, I might have what you want now, but you showed me no interest there. So now I'm going to move on and find somebody else. So always taking those things into account. Um, and just knowing and understanding, I think, from a parent perspective, that as college coaches, this is our livelihood. This is how we are feeding our families or we are taking care of ourselves. We're not going to risk that just because your kid plays hard or because you think your kid deserves an offer or they need a chance. I hear those things thrown around a lot. They play really hard. They just need an opportunity. They're a great kid, hard work ethic. That's awesome. That's great. But that's not ultimately why I'm going to put money on the table for you. And so I would say put less value in those characteristics because as coaches, we're going to see that. It's important to us, but it's not the defining factor as to why we're going to offer your kid a scholarship. Um, Players, the best advice I can give you is understand the game, learn to understand the game. It's one thing to get in there and get your individual reps, right? Ball handling, passing, shooting. Can you understand structure? Can you understand flow of offenses? Can you understand actions? Can you understand the terminology that's used? These are things you see players struggle with the most when they get to the next level is they have to operate within structure, learn terminology, and make plays out of these reads or these concepts or these structures that sometimes are very, very new to them. And that's a big learning curve. So when you're watching college basketball, the NBA, WNBA, pay less attention to what combo move this guy's doing and more of how did he get to that spot? What action is happening away from the ball? What do you hear these announcers using from a terminology perspective? Not all of them use great terminology or not all of them understand it, but you can pick up some really good gems when you hear them say, came off this down screen, they ran horns action, they ran pistol action. Knowing and understanding these things will give you a leg up in a lot of ways. Um, but that's probably just some very, small advice, basic advice. Maybe it went over your head, maybe it didn't, but I hope it maybe gives you some more insight.
There you go. Well, man, I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. I know we've been going back and forth trying to get this locked in and with the move from one school to the other and getting back into, that last second recruiting and getting ready for the season, the jamborees. I know you guys are heading over to Denver and some other things. So I appreciate you taking time. I'll definitely be in touch with you. I got a couple players that I want you to take a look at that I definitely think can come in and make an impact as freshmen. So we'll definitely be in touch, man. I'll post this, I'll tag you on it. And I really appreciate your time.
Sounds good. I appreciate you having me.